Friends, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to our Wednesday opportunity for gathering. And today is a very special day. We have one of our very own alums, Dr. Teresa Smallwood, who is giving our presentation today. And it's really a special day because one of the things that we have an opportunity to rejoice is the kind of significant contribution that our school, our program, our community makes to the larger project of theological education, but generally to the world by the work of our alums. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Smallwood. She is a native of the place where my people come from, North Carolina. And of course, North Carolina is one of the places that is not behind God's back, it's actually in front of God's face. So we rejoice in having those common roots. She holds a BA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill University, a JD rather, Juris Doctorate from North Carolina Central University. Now I know where the swag comes from, and a PhD, of course, from CTS in the field of theology, ethics, and human sciences. Her dissertation title was The Leprosy Effect, a queer womanist pastoral care model. She was ordained at the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church and is currently a member of New Covenant Christian Church. Before coming to CTS to begin her career in theological education, Dr. Smallwood worked in private practice law as well as nonprofit law and as assistant district superintendent. So indeed, both in background and in vocation, she represents what is the best of CTS, and it is indeed a pleasure and a joy to welcome her to our Wednesday reflection. And I'm going to turn it over now to Lisa Zook, who can do our protocols, and then we'll proceed with our time together.
Thank you, President Ray. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see so many of you here. Just a couple of quick Zoom best practices so that we can enjoy our time together with Dr. Smallwood. First, please keep your microphone on mute unless you are speaking. That helps to make sure that we don't have a lot of background noise and can hear Dr. Smallwood and one another clearly. I believe after she speaks, she will be engaging us in some conversation. So if you are going to speak, remember to unmute yourself. We can also use the chat feature to engage with one another. If you're not familiar with that, in the bottom of your screen, there's a little speech bubble. If you click on it, a chat window opens up. You can send messages to the whole group. You can also say hi to one or two friends that you might see on here that you might want to connect with. I encourage you all, I know that this is a time that we're all multitasking and doing all kinds of things, but if you are able to have your camera on so that we can see your face, I know I can imagine that Dr. Smallwood would rather speak to a bunch of faces instead of just names on a screen. So if you're able to have a camera on and join us with your face, we appreciate that. Also, if your name is not your name, so if your device wants to just call it by the device, you can actually change it to your name. If you go into if you hover in your square, there are 3 little dots in the upper right corner of your square. And if you click on those, it gives you the option to rename yourself. So would love to have at least a first name for everybody too. That also helps with our engagement with one another. Those are my Zoom best practices. And so I will turn it over now to Dr. Smallwood.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And Dr. Ray, I really, really appreciate this invitation to be back with my family at CTS. I hold you so dear. I'm going to talk very briefly, and then I hope we can engage a conversation. And I've titled my reflections, Out from the Gloomy Past. There is a sense in which the past is always present with us. At least that is what I gleaned from Christina Sharp, author of In the Wake on Blackness and Being. There is much to be gleaned from our ancestors that we often fail to tap into, such as their narratives of resistance, their displays of resilience, their abilities to transcend. Too much of our memory is stuck on the gloom. It is understandable because the atrocities of the past, even the immediate past, are horrific and unyielding in divining destruction. And yet, focused attention on the gloom sustains a cyclic attachment to supremacist ideals that continue to instantiate a mythic domination that clouds our minds, cages our bodies, and entraps our souls. Sharp suggests living in the wake and being grounded in the knowledge of the wake helps us to embrace a past that is still present, and it helps us to keep watch with our dead. Reflecting upon Dion Brand's ruminations in A Map to the Door of No Return, Sharp highlights this passage, and I quote, "But even if those Africans who were in the holes, who left something of their prior selves in those rooms as a trace to be discovered, and who passed through the doors of no return, did not survive the holding of the sea, they, like us, are alive in hydrogen, in oxygen, in carbon, in phosphorus, and iron, and in sodium and chlorine. This is what we know about those Africans, thrown, jumped, dumped overboard in Middle Passage. They are with us still. In the time of the wake, known as residence time," end quote. What would it mean to our vision of the future if in fact they do return? What does it mean that they both return and instruct, lead, and guide? Part and parcel to the gloom that hovers over our memory and our counter-memory is the failure to acknowledge the dynamic roadmap to evolutionary change that ancestral luminaries continue to model in the wake. But in this phrase, out of the gloomy past, or out from the gloomy past, taken from the 19th century poem written by James Weldon Johnson, which was set to music by his brother John Rosamond Johnson, in that lyric is displayed this aesthetic movement so that we can discern the ins and the outs of gloomy pasts. The directive out is a mandate for a shift in the atmosphere, a shift as seismic as a rearrangement of the tectonic plates. Out, as in get out. Get out from under the gloominess of the past. Get out from under its spells, its allures, its possessive nature, and move. Move out from the gloomy past in a manner that exceeds or surpasses and sometimes overpowers or defeats. Move out, but do not sell out. In other words, moving out from our gloomy past does not mean forgetting it, but rather it means keeping the memory of it sacred, keeping the memory of our ancestors front and center for the inspiration and the discernment that it provides. The complete thought from the lyrics says, "Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast." For me, this represents the shift in attitude, the shift in purpose, in determination, and in resolve. See, it is one thing to internalize the fact of someone's knee on your neck, but it is quite another to resolve that no one's knee belongs on your neck. No one's knee has a right to be on your neck. And as a result of that resolve, you, fashioned to move heaven and earth, to speak truth to the powers that be, so that that knee is removed, and any evidence of it ever having been there is redressed and repaired. But my friends, this will take concerted communal effort. Theologian and civil rights leader, the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, wrote about building community in his book, The Search for Common Ground, noting that, quote, meaningful and creative shared experiences between people can be more compelling than all of the faiths, fears, concepts, and ideologies that separate them. And if these experiences can be multiplied and sustained over a sufficient duration of time, then any barrier that separates one person from another can be undermined and eliminated, end quote. The work to broaden our welcome, expand our diversity, and become a more inclusive community never ends. And this means that we all must commit to the ideal of building a beloved community, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. urged. Last year, national spasms of divisive isms shook the foundations of what it means to be a community in our country. The events of January 6th, 2021, at the nation's capital left little doubt that the ghosts of our past, like the specters of Marx, continue to loom large and haunt our quest for progress. But with your help, your prayers, and your commitment to our mission, our seminary community, your communities regionally, nationally, and internationally will continue to be a source of hope and healing for all God's people. So I believe that 2021 presents us with an opportunity to envision a future filled with possibilities for equity and inclusion of our diverse population in America, a place where all are valued. We are positioned to envision the kind of world where all are welcome through a radical hospitality centered on the justice of God. How do we achieve this in the face of a past that is hauntological? How do we defeat this gloomy past such that we can move out from it? Well, prescriptively, I suggest we do so through confidence, courage, and collaboration. The motto of the Biden-Harris administration is Build Back Better. Unquestionably, the country has real problems with racial and ethnic tension/hatred and division along deeply ideological and religious lines. So how do we build back better, given the gloomy past, is for me to get out from under it with confidence. I'm confident, for instance, that I have at least as much strength and determination as my ancestor Fannie Lou Hamer to stand up to bigots, to call them out, to exercise my right to vote, to confront and defeat the evil that seeks to devour me. And that confidence is a part of my theological grounding. It causes me to know that my calling and election are sure. In the face of great terror and the constant threat of death, our ancestors mustered the strength to sing, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. See, they were confident in this one thing, that God, who began a good work in them, was able to perform it. We must walk in that truth. So if we have confidence, that confidence must be dispatched like a weapon in what I'm calling holy courage. Now, this is more than Paul Tillich's courage to be, where his focus is upon multiple anxieties associated with non-being. No, our courage must be bold enough to be who we are at all times in the face of everyone, without compromise and with conviction. Give no one the power to declare you a non-being. Demand your beingness and the fact that it matters in this world, because authenticity is the way forward. It requires removing the grave clothes of denial, the shroud of innocence, the spikenard of incredulity. As Maya Angelou so robustly proclaimed, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But more importantly, I say, always show others who you are, undeniably, unabashedly, and unapologetically. For this enables you to identify effective collaborators, those who are like-minded, who will roll up their sleeves and stand alongside you to press toward the mark of our collective high calling. Collaboration is the word of the day. The more you can enlarge your territory, reach across the aisles, shake a neighbor's hand, the more you conquer those forces that seek to destroy us as believers, as people of faith, as citizens, as human beings, and the closer we all get to destiny. Collaboration gives rise to unity, and unity brings forth our common public life. Our ability to forge a way demands that our vision be crafted in the light of love. And that is the place where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. You see, there is only one supreme being. All others are fake. So find in collaboration the capacity to build upon that truth as a firm foundation for our lives so that we might be situated not in the gloomy past, but out from the gloomy past, out in the brightness of hope, out in the shimmering light of joy and peace, out in the starry skies of possibility. Let the ancestors lead the way. Thank you so much, and I hope that we can talk